Welcome to the Leaders Lab podcast, where we unpack lessons from great leaders across all walks of life and turn them into actionable advice to help you on your own leadership journey. I'm your host, Ken Eslick, and today we have Siri Lindley on with us. Siri Lindley is an author, public speaker, triathlon coach to elites, and a two-time triathlon world champion. Siri is in the business of changing lives and making dreams come true. Her mission is to positively influence others and to help empower you by connecting you to your greatest strength by being fearlessly authentic, which is perfect, Siri, because that's what I want to talk about today. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Ken. It's so great to be here with you. As you know, I just adore you, and I'm thrilled to be on the Leader Lab with you. So let's get to it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Siri, you've got a tremendous story, and I think it all revolves around this topic of being fearlessly authentic. How did you get to this? Because I feel like that's almost like your brand now, right? Is helping people to be fearlessly authentic. How did you get to that?
I think it was a lot of years in my life, being faced, as we all are, with many challenges and roadblocks, and realizing that all I really wanted in my life was to find my way home to me. You know how Tony Robbins often says, whose love did you crave? Was it your mom's? Was it your dad's? And what I came to understand is that I had been craving my own love for a lifetime. And in order to find my way there, number one, I had to figure out who I am authentically. And number two, I needed to champion myself and back myself to say, bring all of you, Siri, into this world. And I'm so sorry, this is authentic as well.
I've got one right behind me who will at some point equal that up, so don't worry about it.
I'm so sorry. But the great things that we can achieve in our lives, the impact that we can have, that comes from bringing all of who you are into life, all of who you are into your relationships, all of who you are into work, all of who you are, and embracing that. And when I started doing that in my life, that's when I really started feeling not only happy and joyful, but fulfilled in my life. And that's when I really started achieving the things that I dreamt of achieving. And even if you think of, here we are in the Leaders Lab, think about a leader who, say, I became a triathlon world champion.
Right.
But 8 years earlier, I came in dead last in my first race. I didn't know how to swim. I sucked. I humiliated myself in this race. But I had a deep emotional reason why I had to achieve my goal of wanting to be the best in the world in this sport that I sucked at. And that why was me, my father, when he found out that I was gay as a 23-year-old, cut me out of his life. And that rejection at the time was just heartbreaking. He was my everything. He was my hero. And instead of giving up and deciding that the rest of my life was just going to be a tragedy, I decided, I'm going to get out there and I need to do something to prove to myself, most importantly, that even as a gay woman, I can achieve amazing things.
So you really didn't start the triathlon part until 23, 24, something like
23 years old.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm old in relation to when most people start. Sure. And also I don't know how to swim.
That's a problem.
But I thought,
potentially.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, this is a sport. This is a goal that if I can put everything I have into making this happen, I'm definitely going to earn a respect for myself. I'm definitely going to, find a way to appreciate and find a worthiness from within. If I take this on, if I have the courage to say yes, even though everything's telling me not to do it, that was going to be the vehicle through which I found a love for myself at a time when I was desperate for it. So that's what got me started on this goal. And then I just, threw myself into it. And one of the things that I realized early on is that I needed to let go of a lot of things if I was going to actually make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to let go of trying to be everything I thought I needed to be for everyone else around me, to fit in, to be loved, to be accepted, to be worthy.
Yeah, because
And
pursuing something like being a world champion in anything at a certain level, really at a lot of levels, requires a certain degree of being selfish, right? It's like, no, I can't hang out with you. No, I can't spend all this time with my friends. I maybe can't even do laundry in my own house. Someone's got to do that for me because I got to be up training at 3 in the morning or whatever, right?
yeah, that's exactly right. And I'd spent my life kind of pleasing and achieving and doing because I felt that that was what was required for me to earn the love of others. But that wasn't exactly what you're saying. That
Right.
was not going to see me achieve this goal. And I also needed to become someone that was willing to fail because, you know, I was going to fail a lot.
Right.
Obviously, I was going to fail and embarrass myself a lot. But I just gave that the meaning that, when we fail, we learn. And when we learn, we grow. And when we grow, we make progress. And as long as I'm making progress, I can feel good about myself. And 8 years it took, a lot of failure, a lot of falling down, a lot of disappointment, but so much personal growth and me really connecting to who I am and what mattered to me and why this mattered to me. And when I won the world championship 8 years later, I was ready to retire on that day because I found what I was
Yeah, you're
looking
done. Yeah, yeah.
for. But I knew that I needed to back myself and believe that this wasn't a fluke. I wasn't a one shot wonder, and I could put together one more year where I could maintain the number one ranking, which I had achieved that year. And I did that. And that was a hard thing to do because I found what I was looking for. So I no longer had a
The
reason why.
motivation, yeah, it wasn't as strong. Yeah.
So I was able to do it, which was great. I retired at number one in the world, but it was much more of a force energy rather than the pull that I had before with that, why that was keeping me going.
Was it was there a gratification when you did? I mean, certainly being proud of yourself. How did it feel? I mean, were you feeling fulfilled? Were you feeling accomplished? Or were you feeling like, damn it, I've done all this and still my dad's not in the picture yet or whatever? Like, I don't, what did it feel like in that moment?
You know, it, Temporarily, it was the greatest feeling in the world
Sure.
to know that, the pride that I felt in never ever giving up, in giving literally everything, my heart and my soul, to making this happen. But shortly after, yeah, I still don't have my dad. And there was almost this guilt, and I had to forgive myself for this guilt that really, like, I had to set a goal like that in order to love myself, because that was kind of the rule I had, like, if I can do this, like, then for sure I can love myself.
What it reminded me, Siri, of like we met originally in the Tony Robbins environment, and Siri's a speaker at his live events in front of thousands of people, and every now and then you'll get somebody and you go, well, what are you trying to do in business? And they haven't started yet. And they'll go, I want to build a $6 billion company. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I don't want to rain on your parade, but that's a lot. Maybe we should start by like hiring your first employee or, creating a business plan or in your case, learning how to swim, right? I mean, that goal just seems so big coming out of the gates that it's amazing that you did it though. I mean, it just really is truly amazing. But yeah, so now you're digesting that after the fact and you're going, why does it take this much for me to earn my own love? And yeah, talk more about that.
Well, I think, and this happened later on, the need to forgive myself. I kind of did the best that I could with what my beliefs were at the time. And what I realized is all along that journey from day one, just, declaring to myself and to my mom actually on that day when I decided I earned love for myself just in that. I earned
Hmm.
love for myself just by saying yes, by being afraid, having all the odds stacked against me, but saying yes and taking that first step.
Yeah.
But I never acknowledged that until much later on in my life. So after that, I think, all I wanted to do, and this is why I think it's fearless authenticity is so incredibly important. And I'll take you back a little bit. When I was in college, I had just severe OCD, and really to the point it was debilitating. I did, flicking lights on and off for an hour and a half until I could get some horrible thought out of my mind. And in that day, no one ever spoke about anxiety. No one ever spoke about fear. No one ever spoke about this thing that I was doing. And because of that, I felt so alone. I felt like a crazy person. I felt like I was the only person on the planet that felt this way. And so, take it to where I am today. I feel that when we show up fearlessly authentic, when we are willing to be vulnerable and talk about the fact that, I've struggled, I've had crippling self-doubt, I've had debilitating anxiety, I've been afraid, I've failed, like that. When you're willing to share that, and to me that's the part of being fearlessly authentic, is telling the truth
Yeah.
about your experience in life and what got you to where you are today. When you do that, people can look at you and they can see themselves in you. Number
Right.
one, they realize they're not alone in their fear and their doubt and their anxiety. And number two, they can look at you and say, wow, well, you were able to do that. And you experienced a lot of the things I experience on a daily basis. So maybe I can do that too. And I think that's so incredibly important because I've had clients who talk about, when they talk about their kids, and I'll ask them, have you shared your struggles with your children? Oh, no, 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 no.
Right.
I'm not going to put that on them. And I ask them, well, what's going to happen when they experience doubt or when they fail or they fall short in something? Because to me, I feel like they will then say, well, gosh, dad's this huge success, but he never felt fear. He never felt anxiety. So there must be something wrong with me.
Right.
And I think that when we, as leaders, whether you're a leader as a parent, whether you're a leader of a company, as leaders, the more vulnerable we can be, the more authentic we can be.
Yeah. I'm
That
thinking
is
too,
like,
when we're
right.
similar in age, you're a couple years younger than me, I think, but so we grew up around the same time, and I'm thinking about it. You're absolutely right. Like now, like everybody knows about OCD. You've got people that are famous that talk about it, but 30 years ago, no one was talking about that at all. I mean, I think there were two classes, like normal or crazy, right? And if you're flicking the lights on all the time, you probably feel like, I mean, like, I didn't know anyone was doing that when we were kids, you know? And obviously, it's just as common as it is now. But by being able to share that now, or anything else that we share, there's so many people that are helped. I agree. What happened with your relationships then after that? Like, because I know that I've known you for a long time and or for several years, and I know that to me there's been not to lump your life into three phases, but in a way there's this growing up and then getting into the triathlon phase to become a world champion. Then there's this middle phase that I kind of want to talk about a little bit that gets you into this fulfillment phase where you are now. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know I'm generalizing, but talk about some of your relationships and stuff in there in the middle that then led you to where you are now with Beck.
That's a great question. And I think, throughout when I was racing, I was just coming to terms with the fact that I'm gay. I lost
Yeah.
my dad over it. I wasn't willing to jump in the closet to save our relationship because that just felt like abandoning me. But as I I turned professional and I got my first major sponsorship. And it's an expensive sport. You know, you're traveling to a different country every single weekend to race. And I was working 60-hour a week job at the YMCA, working my butt off, and I get offered this incredible sponsorship, which basically was going to wipe all my worries away. I'd have all my travel paid for me, and I wasn't even good yet.
Right.
And I went in to sign this contract in New York City at this big company, and they sat me down and they said, before we can sign you, we need you to promise two things. Number one, that you will grow your hair long. And number two, you'll get a boyfriend, because this is a family oriented company and you need to fit the image. And if you're not willing to do this, we can't take you on.
Wow.
And in that moment, you can imagine, you know, here I've got this dream, like I want to be the best in the world. And this is basically my ticket to having a better chance of making that happen. So I signed the contract. I grew my hair, got a fake boyfriend, and it felt awful. It felt awful. I felt like I was living this, you know, double life,
Yeah.
this inauthentic
Did the
life.
boyfriend know that he was a pretend boyfriend, or was it,
No,
or no, didn't know?
he just
She,
thought I was very, very prude and
we're
and
taking this girl out to
not that
dinner
much.
10 times and she's not putting out. What's going on?
He thought I was a complete prude. And it just felt really bad. And even though, you know, I'm training, I'm getting better, I'm starting to win races, I win this world championship, I think that that is why I didn't feel fulfilled. Because I often wondered, you know, but what could I have done if I could just be me?
Right.
Like what would that look like? And so after I retired, it became my total priority to just be me. I wanted to, you know, initially, and there was like this funny dance going on because I started coaching, and when I started coaching just like my coach that really had the greatest impact on me. And that didn't feel right. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So I said, I'm not going to coach like him. I'm going to coach like me. What do I feel will work? What do I feel is, you know, who do I want to be as a coach? So I shifted that. And as soon as I shifted that, suddenly I'm getting all these great results with my athletes. And I started, you know, talking about my sexuality and who I was, talking about my fears, my failures, and all of this. And suddenly everyone's kind of flourishing around me. And I just started really paying attention. And what I realized was, you know, not only am I happier than I've ever been, but this is what's bringing out the best in me and everyone around me. So that became my ultimate goal, was to live authentically. And other things that that means is not just being you, but it's living true to what matters most to you,
Hmm.
living in alignment with your values.
Right.
What are the things that matter most to you? Are you living that every single day? Because if you're not, you're going to be unhappy, or you're going to feel like, you know, something's missing. And that went really well for a while. I had a couple moments, you know, life is interesting and things happen and they throw you off track. But in the last 2.5 years, Ken, as you know, I got a really bad diagnosis,
Yeah,
acute myeloid
I
leukemia.
don't know if you know this because it was someone on your team, but I had you scheduled to be on a different podcast on like a live, group call, and a couple days before the call, someone on your team, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have come from your number, so maybe it was Rebecca or something. I don't know, but I got a text that so sorry, but Siri can't make your thing, and they couldn't disclose what it was yet, but they said, it's like a life or death matter, and I was just like, oh my god, and then tell us what happened then,
Oh
like
my
what.
God, that just
Yeah,
gave me goosebumps.
yeah, it
Well,
was crazy.
so here I am, the athlete, the one who barely, you know, ever drinks, doesn't smoke, and I get acute myeloid leukemia, and it's at a pretty bad stage. And this just, uh, it was terrifying. It was devastating. But I knew, I'd come so far in my life. I finally, had this love, my wife, who I love with all my soul. I'm doing work that fulfills me. Like finally, I have everything. I have a love for myself, and I refuse to have this be my death sentence. And regardless of what everyone was telling me, and I think in that moment, I declared that I was going to survive and I was going to thrive, but I didn't believe it in that moment. You're being told you have a 5% chance of getting through this. Like, of course, I'm not believing it, but I knew, again, like I needed to become that person that would survive
Yes.
and that would thrive on the other side.
It
And
was
my
almost
point,
like the same kind. No, not to interrupt, but it was almost like the same kind of goal as saying, "I'm going to be the world champion in
right?
triathlon." Like it, because 5% chance isn't very good. I mean, the world triathlon thing might have been even more extreme, but you know what I mean. Like it's now you're putting it out there. Now you've got to be pulled towards that, right?
And maybe the whole reason that I took on that goal in the beginning was to prove to myself that what seems impossible is really possible.
Right.
And I now have my proof, which gave me that little bit of hope that I needed to become the person that would survive. But my point in even mentioning this is, there was a moment when I was really, really sick. And in those kinds of moments, you start thinking about, well, geez, like, will I be satisfied if I'm not here tomorrow? Like, did I live my life in the way that I'll be proud of and happy? And in that, I realized what would be most important to me. And there were three things. And one of them is, did I love with all my heart? Like, basically, did I show the people that I love that I love them? Did I tell them I love them? Did I do what I love? Did I love myself? All of that. The second one was, did I live fearlessly? Like, did I take on things that I was terrified to do? Did I have the courage? And the answer to that, like that, I felt good about. And then the third one, did I make a difference in this world? Did I matter? And so when I had the miracle of surviving, and thank God I'm, cancer free and thriving today, but what that experience does to you is that I now truly live my life on purpose every single moment of every single day. I will not do things that don't matter, like that aren't, in
In
alignment with
alignment.
who
Yeah.
I am. So as far as living fearlessly authentic, like there's not a moment in my life where I'm not living fearlessly authentic now, because to me, every single moment is this miracle, this gift. And I will never go back to a place where I am saying yes to things that I shouldn't, or, not doing things that I really want to be doing.
Right.
And so I share this because my message to all of you is, don't wait for something like that to happen to start truly living your life on purpose, on mission, and fearlessly authentic, because that is where your ultimate joy is. That is where you will be your most successful. That is where you will have your greatest impact in the world. And that is where you will find your fulfillment. So let me be the one that experienced that so that I can share this message with you and just commit to that, because that is the answer.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And it's funny because if you look at your life and what you went through and what you've accomplished and how it all came full circle, anybody looking at that would go, that's a great story. That's a great life. But I think to your point, you don't have to wait decades and decades to make that happen. You can start that right away, right? And I know that you lead masterminds and things like that. We'll put all your contact information. I've joined two of those masterminds in the past, and they're awesome. And if you guys want to get in touch with Siri. So before we close out, I'm sure everybody listening is curious what happened with the relationship with your dad.
Well, I realized, thanks to Tony Robbins, who has been my greatest mentor for the last 25 years, and thanks to the horses on our rescue ranch, I realized that although his rejection of me devastated me at the time, it really was this beautiful gift, because in that happening, it gave birth inside of me to this insatiable hunger,
Mm-hmm.
this determination, this drive, this will that led me to doing whatever it took to make this impossible dream come true, because I needed to, because I needed to find
Mm-hmm.
my own worth from within. And so through Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, and also I talk about the horses, because we save these horses and they've been so let down by humans, just so abused and neglected and let down. Yet after a week of us loving on them and giving them the care that they need and being consistent and kind and loving, they forgive humans within a week.
Right.
And they open themselves up to joy and to happiness and to this amazing future. And so from Tony, saying you must forgive for you, and, who wouldn't you be today if it wasn't for that person hurting you? But
Right.
then also witnessing the horses, where I thought, you know what? Like, if I'm going to blame him for everything that's wrong, I need to blame him for everything that's amazing in my life.
Right.
And I wouldn't have achieved what I achieved. I wouldn't be who I am today if he had responded to my being gay in any other way. So I called him and did as Tony Robbins, suggested. I told him how much he hurt me. I told him how he broke my heart, but that I forgave him and that I wanted to thank him for being exactly the father I needed him to be, to become who I am today, the woman that I'm really proud to be.
Sure.
And he said how sorry he was, how much he'd been hurting over this, how he'd been following my career for the last 25 years. And he said how sorry he was. And I had my father back, and it was the ultimate gift. And now he calls me every single day. And I'm not saying that when you forgive someone, you need to have them back in your life. I'm not saying that. But forgiveness is for you.
Right.
Because as long as we blame someone, as long as we hold on to that pain, we have an excuse.
Right.
An excuse as to why we're not as happy as we want to be, why we haven't had the success that we feel that we should have. Like, we have this excuse. And when we forgive, suddenly you are free and you become empowered to truly live the life that you deserve to live.
I agree.
And so that was the greatest gift. And I'm just so grateful to have my dad back. And we have an amazing relationship. And I'm just so thankful to Tony and to the horses and to myself having the courage to forgive him and forgive myself for my part in it, and to be free.
Well, I'm so thankful for you, Siri, and thank you for jumping on here. I know it's a travel day for you, and you're such an important person in my life and the lives of so many others. And love this, living fearlessly, and we will be in touch soon. Thanks so much for coming on. For those of you listening today, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review if you can. Thanks again, Siri.
Ken, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for bringing the beautiful gift of you into this world. You have been someone that I've loved and cared about for many years now, and I thank you always for your support and belief in me, and for sharing me with the Leaders Lab. It's great to be here, and you're amazing. So thank you, Ken.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.